This is Nithin Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. Happy Friday. We're heading towards the weekend now, and then week 14 on the NFL is coming up, which is crazy to think about. But today we have a really special guest. But before I get to introduce him, I have two special co-hosts with me. One, his name is the first one, Italy Jet from Everything NYJ. Go check him out. He does a fantastic job with his podcast, all things Jets, and go check him out. And also Jiggy Man Porta from KOD Media. Go check him out. He does a fantastic job also. And thank you guys for joining me as special co-hosts today for the show. And today's guest, the man of the hour, everybody knows him, former NFL wide receiver Santana Moss, aka Cowboy Killer, known for his speed. Man, what a great career he had. Played for the New York Jets, Washington football team now, or Washington Commanders now, but Washington Redskins back in the day. But Santana, thank you for joining us today. It's truly an honor. And fans, please tune in on the Spreaker app where you can ask questions, and we'll take your questions if you have time today. But Santana, thank you again. Like I said, heck of a career, heck of a resume. Now you're doing big things off the field, working with the Washington football team, Washington Commanders now as a host. So how are your family doing? And thank you again for joining us.
First and foremost, man, I appreciate you fellas. I'm doing great. And, it's definitely a pleasure to be on this show with you guys, and especially that a lot of you guys back in New York, who I have a lot of love for, man, from my 4 years of playing there. So appreciate you for having me.
So whoever wants to, we'll go in rotation here. So Italy, Jet, you want to start off first?
Yeah, definitely. So, Mr. Moss, you were one of the reasons why I love the Jets. You know, you, Crabette, Coles, you guys were so good back in your time playing. My first question is, what was your routine like going into game days, like the week, on Sundays? What was your routine like?
I'm very superstitious. So
okay.
I've been having the same routine that I had since my 11th grade year. Actually 10th grade year, and my first year playing varsity football in high school. I think I was listening to the ATLiens Outkast album. I would listen to that heading into the stadium, and I actually listened to that from that day all the way into my last year as a pro. So that was one of the things that I was very superstitious about. But also, throughout the season, especially throughout each week of us playing, I kept my focus on what I had in front of me. I never really started steered outside of that box or that circle that I had. And if I wasn't a person that talked to you on a regular, or you wasn't a person that talked to me on a regular, I didn't accept those kind of calls. I used to always let someone else know, to let them, whoever it is trying to get in touch with me, hey, it's the season. I'll talk to you off season. Each week I probably had 2 or 3 people that I talked to on a regular. So those are the only people I would talk to, and my immediate family or whatever. But I was very strict and stern in my ways, man. So I just felt like as long as I stayed the course, regardless of what happened, it's not going to always be the same outcome, but at least I gave myself a chance to have the outcome that I was looking for.
Awesome.
Man, well, first, Nathan, appreciate you. Let me jump on here with you guys. Who would have thought? Me just commenting on your tweet saying, "Are you kidding me, Santana Moss?" And then you're like, "You want to talk to him?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. All right, so appreciate that. Number 2, let me give you the flowers you deserve, Mr. Moss. All right, how you doing? Thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy.
So I gotta ask. So it's a 2-part question. All right. What was your favorite season in the NFL? And second part, why isn't it the 2003 New York Jets season? How you doing?
That stands out. Tell you the truth, I got two of my favorites. Is my first 1,000-yard season, which was in 2003 as a Jet. That kind of carries a lot of weight just for knowing what I had went through early in my career as a Jet. And that was honestly the first year Coles had went to the Skins at the time. And I remember they wasn't still sure about what they wanted to do with me as a receiver. Right. A lot of folks don't know the New York Jets really wanted me more as a punt returner than a receiver.
Wow.
And I guess you can say, fortunately, I made it hard for them to just rely on me as a punt returner because of some of the things that I can do as a receiver. And that 2003 season, I remember we brought in Curtis Conway to be the starter, to replace Coles. And they was going to have Wayne Crabette continue to be the starter at Z. And my role was going to still be the same role that I had when Coles was there. I come in on 3rd down. Wayne Corbett moved inside. I play Z, and they did something a little different that season where they would give they would give Corbett a series, and then they'll tell me to start a series. And I believe that Vinny Testaverde had to play because of Chad got hurt or something like that. And so when I would get in there for my series, I would make plays, and it was probably like week 4 or week 3. I'm not sure what week it was. I remember them coming to me, prior to the game and say, "Hey man, you're going to start. You and Coles. You and Corbett. I keep saying Coles. You and Corbett start." And we found a way to try to just make it work. But that was my come out party. That was my season when I had my first 1,000 yards, and I think I have the record still. I'm not sure if it still holds up. I had the most touchdowns at that point in consecutive games for the Jets, which was 7. Not sure if it still holds up. It was so long ago. So I'm pretty sure somebody had to, surpass that. But that season holds a lot of weight. And my first year in Washington as a Redskin, 05, that was my Pro Bowl season. That 03 season, I was an alternate as a Pro Bowl. Also, I was an alternate as a Pro Bowler as a special teamer in 02. But 05 was when I was able to break the seal and be a Pro Bowler for the first time. And that season I had 1,400 yards. And I don't know, it was just amazing. It was great. It was the perfect season you can have coming into a new team, stumping on the Cowboys. No, I heard we got the Cowboys.
You can do it all you want.
Twice. And honestly, finding out how rich that tradition was with the Cowboys and the Redskins at the time. Didn't know. I was oblivious to, the tradition. I watched it growing up as a kid, but just didn't know how magnifying that game was until I was able to have the Monday Night Miracle against those guys. And, the rest is history. So those 2 seasons definitely stands out for me as my best seasons in the NFL.
Yeah. I appreciate you dropping out that Monday Night Miracle. Throw it on Ethan real quick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I lost my mind.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, obviously, I brought it up in the intro. You were knowing about speed. So I got to take you back to your 40-yard, the combine, the 40-yard dash. You had a 4.31 in the 40-yard dash, and John Ross came close to you with the 4.32. But what was that? Take us to that. Where did you get the speed from throughout your career?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't run at the combine. I ran at the University of Miami, and my initial 40 was 4.26. I ran a 4.26, so I ran 2 40s. My first 40 out the gate, I went 4.35. My second one was 4.26. They rounded it off and said I had a 4.30. So that's how they get the 4.30.
Yeah.
Coincidentally or fortunately, that still held up as the fastest 40 of my draft class, even with a Mike Vick being in that same draft class. But so when guys tell me, Tanner, you ran 4.31, I'm like, I was running 4.31 as a junior in college. So 4.26 is that's my fastest time. So give me credit for that.
Yeah.
The NFL do what they do, and they tell you they round it off and all that stuff. I don't care. But I grew up in track. Track has been a staple, of my career. Yeah. It was always a picture. I actually got into the University of Miami off a track scholarship. I was a 60-meter champ. I broke the 60-meter record like 2 or 3 times while I was in college. I was the triple jump and long jump state champion in high school. Also a collegiate champion in college. I made it to the finals. I made it to the Olympic trials in the long jump. And so that was just something that, that was in my, that was like the other sport. Like if it wasn't for football was always number 1, but track basically was, the foundation. And so folks will always say, and because I tell folks all the time, they say, you're known for your speed.
Yeah.
You don't understand speed, because if I'm fast, those guys that run track, those real fast guys, that's what I consider fast. I will say, I have some gears, and I was able to use mine better than a lot of folks who have what I have. I look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. Yeah. He's blazing fast. He's one of those guys that I probably compete against on the track that you just can't beat. And so to see him able to use his on the football field like I use mine, that what separated us from a lot of the other guys. You have a lot of guys in football that's fast, but they don't know how to be fast until they got the ball in their hand. You know, I was able to control those gears in and out of my cuts, in and out of my breaks, you know, different routes. You know, you don't get every guy that can run a 10 and 12-yard route at top speed and sit down, catch a ball, and then get back to that same gear. You know what I mean? So that's what I was able to do. And that kind of separated me from a lot of guys. And it's probably not that many guys that do that well. Waddle does it well. Tyreek Hill does it well. You can name a few more guys, but you know, that's a part of our game that separates us from the most, being that we had a small stature as well.
Wow.
Wow, man, I love that. I love that. So one of my idols growing up was you, and I was just wondering who's your idol or one of your idols like to reflect your game on in the wide receiver position?
So early in my years, when I was real young, I always wanted to play receiver. Okay. And for some odd reason, the San Francisco 49ers played. So I grew up by Dolphin Stadium. At the time, it was Joe Robbie. Even when I was in Liberty City, they used to play at the Orange Bowl. I used to see them going to the game. So I was always kind of connected to that, you know, to the Dolphins. And I remember it was a Super Bowl in Joe Robbie Stadium. It was the 49ers against the Cincinnati Bengals. My dad asked me, who's going to win this game tonight? You know, Super Bowl game is down the street from us. Who going to win the game? I can literally come outside my home and see the stadium from where I stayed at. So I said the 49ers going to win. And I watched that game. And Joe Montana and Jerry Rice got off. Wow. And that's where I fell in love. And I think way before that, I had a liking for any receiver that did his thing. But that's where I fell in love with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. So when you catch a kid like myself on the park, after a game like that, the next week, I got guys throwing me the ball saying Montana to Jerry. And I used to always get the ball, blah, blah, blah. But as I got older, I realized I'm not going to be the same height as Jerry. I'm not the same build as Jerry, but I love playing that position. And I also was a cornerback too when I was that young. So, you know, I had a little bit both in me. So I was a big fan of Dion as well. Yeah. But I knew that receiver was my first and foremost, you know, position. That's the position that I wanted to be recognized for. And so I started just finding guys that looked like me that played the position. So I think when I, you know, being that I'm a Florida guy, Jacquez Green was a guy that stood out to me. I watched him in high school. He was at Florida. Before Jacquez Green was Kevin Williams at University of Miami. It was crazy that I ended up going to University of Miami, breaking a lot of his records as a punt returner, as a receiver. Wow. Those guys had the same stature as me. Those guys, you know, reminded me of myself. Who else? Desmond Howard, even though he probably wasn't that much of a receiver, polished receiver, still his punt return, kick return abilities. I watched him a lot, you know, at Michigan. And then when he was at Green Bay, that, you know, the Super Bowl performance he put on, you name it, man. Guys like that, you know, every guy that had my size that looked like me, that played the position, I kind of will watch them and into detail and take what they had or add something that they had to my tool belt or whatever. But it's just funny that because when I look back at a lot of those guys that I watched, I end up having similar careers or better. You know what I mean? So they was the reason why I'm able to even be sitting here talking, because they was able to do it first. So you always got to give credit to those guys.
Love that, man. Love that.
Solid. So Santana, my question for you is in regards to the fan bases. All right, because you went to Cal City, right?
Yep. See, I got it on my head.
So I lived in Pembroke Pines. All right. You know, I was around that time when everybody walking around Cal City. You got to say it right. If you didn't say it right, you weren't local. All right. But you went to Miami, right, for college. So you to me in a college that really has a mix when it comes to fan bases. Yeah. How different is it when you go from a New York Jets fan base and at the time Redskins fan base? What's the big difference there? And do you see a difference in style of fans?
It's a big difference. I'm gonna tell you like this. So when I was drafted to the Jets, and I'm not sure if I shared this with anybody else, if leading up to the draft, the only place I never ever didn't want to go, it didn't matter what team it was, I didn't want to go to New York. Wow. That's crazy. Oh, I had one place that they'd ask me, Tanner, what's the one place you want to go? I didn't want to go to New York. And the reason was because my senior year at UM, we had the Big East breakfast for all the seniors in New York. And when I tell you I had the worst experience ever, it was dreary, it was raining, we was in Manhattan, it was stank, it was dirty. No offense. Not to say, you know, I ended up coming there and enjoying 4 years there. But leading as an 18-year-old, I mean, not 18-year-old, but as a 19, 20-year-old, I didn't see myself in New York as a, you know, for a career. So when I got selected to go to the Jets, I mean, I blank face, like, man, happy. But inside, I'm like, fuck, like, did I jinx it? But
why'd I say it out loud?
yeah, when I got there, it was the best experience. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why I feel like it was the best experience that I've ever experienced as a young man, because it taught me how to really play and, you know, with a lot of pressure. I mean, I feel like the fan base alone puts so much pressure on their guys to be great or perfect, to where and you can't be both. You can either be one or the other, and there's nowhere you're going to be perfect. So you could be somewhere near it. But they was hard, man. They was hard to play for, and you understood why. You know what I mean? It just felt like it was a certain kind of person or certain kind of way you had to be a New Yorker or to be playing up there or be from that area. So you kind of you know, adapt or adopt that kind of I guess mindset and say, this is how I got to play. You know, I come from Miami, and I feel like we have a different mindset. We gritty, you know, we're from the South. Yep. People don't like to give a lot of credit. So it was always, you know, that mindset is us against everybody else. When I got to New York, I found it was a rude awakening for me. But at the same time, I learned and I understood what it takes to be a pro. And it was like, you know, I look back at it and say that was the best thing for me to grow up at. You know, I was basically, I grew up in New York. I was actually there for 4 years, and I was able to, you know, learn how to be a pro. So when I got to DC, it was easy to kind of maneuver. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not a kid no more. I'm 25, and I'm considering myself a young man. And it was easy to navigate through that fan base a little different. And the fan base is a lot different. One, I could say, in New York, they insane. I remember going at some fans because they was getting on Vinny Testaverde because he was having a bad game, and I just found it like odd for them to be saying what they were saying to him. And I think that moment, that game, Vinny, Wayne Corbett, a lot of those guys knew where my heart was at. I wore it on my sleeve. And for me to hear my quarterback getting talked to like that, I lost it. You know, one of the guys like, Tanner, tell him to throw you the effing ball. And I turn around, no, F you. Like, you know what I mean? You ain't gonna talk to him like that. And I literally almost wanted to come in the stands because I felt like that was disrespectful. But like I say, I'm a young guy and I'm still learning what it takes to play amongst the stuff that we amongst when it comes to the fan base. But it was great, man. The one thing I like about the DC fan base, a lot of them, and you know, no offense, they look like me. You know, when I was growing up, I heard Chocolate City. When I heard DC, DMV, it was always Chocolate City, Chocolate City, Chocolate City. So you get there, and it's predominantly Black. You know, it's a lot of us, and not only is it hard to play, because see, that's what folks fail to realize, you know, like we our own worst enemies at times. You know what I'm saying? People wonder why, you know, they say, hey, you know, it's a big thing now, especially on social media. You know, you hear a lot of folks talking about the Blacks got to get together and do what we have to do, represent for the culture, do this for the culture. Well, it's hard to represent for the culture because there's so many of us that's against or that's trying to pull each other down instead of letting someone lead and bring us all up. You know, everybody's fighting against each other to be number one, when it's all right to be number two. It's all right to be number three. You can still be a boss at number 5, at number 15. You know what I mean? People don't understand. You don't have to be one to be that guy. But they embraced me, and I put on a show, you know, out the gate the first 2 weeks of the season, and they kind of catapult me into a great year, into a Pro Bowl year. But I could just say that it was more like playing for my family. You know, it was like something about DC that I gravitated to because it just felt like it was something that I grew up in. You know what I mean? Being from Carol City, it was like something that I knew, something that I saw before. Not to say that in New York, I hadn't won a fan base over, because I did. I feel like I did. I think a lot of them was on my side when it came time for me to leave. They was kind of, lost why I was leaving. And I understood it because it was a business. And I was, I guess I could say I was pleased to know that I had won them over, because it was a tough crowd. You know what I mean? It was a tough crowd, especially coming out of the gate, being a first round pick and being injured. You hear so much as at that time I was 21, 22 years old, and you heard the worst from those fans. So it took a while, but to be welcome when I come and to be welcome when I left, that's the difference to me. But the DMV they look like me, you know what I mean? So it was kind of easy, but it's harder now. Now, don't take this the wrong way. Don't quote me wrong. It was actually harder to play and be good in the DMV because of the guys look like me, because like I said before, we are our worst enemies. We gonna criticize and we gonna be our worst critics. So to be able to have the career I had there and to be recognized like I'm recognized there, I appreciate it, because it wasn't an easy task.
Well,
That's awesome.
yeah, feeding off from that question, obviously, I want to talk about your family and all. And obviously, you were born in Miami, Florida. You went to Miami College. You went to high school in Miami. So, how special was that for you before going into the NFL, playing in front of your friends and family, having your family being there, seeing your games in person? Well, how special was that for you?
I mean, it was big time. When you're young like that, man, you just want an opportunity.
Yeah. And
football was always first for me. And the opportunities that I was getting at the time was slim, And I remember I got an offer from Western Michigan. I went on a visit to Western Michigan. Me and two of my teammates, one of the guys was my best friend, and we all committed on that trip. It's like, yeah, we coming. It don't make sense for me to go anywhere else when I got you guys here. And then my experience didn't end well up there. I end up in the hospital. It's a long story. I won't even get into it. But just being a 17-year-old and on a college campus, things can go crazy. So I come home and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going there. Not to say that they didn't handle me well. They treated me with the utmost. And, if I didn't have the opportunity on the table, I probably would have went there, before anywhere else. University of Miami was always on the table. Mm-hmm. They called me with a track scholarship way before I took a visit. And I told myself that I wasn't going to run track in college. But when I found out the visits that I was getting, when I kind of measured them all, I kind of told myself, if I can play football on this level, and if I feel like I'm that kind of a player, then I should be able to walk on to the University of Miami and prove to them that I can do that. Right. And it all worked out. But I think it also worked out in a sense because of being that I'm from here. It gave my family a chance not to have to worry about spending money to come see me, anywhere else. And we all know college kids, man, we so young at that time, you want something that's familiar to you, I couldn't imagine myself going off to school, and when the season over with, what am I doing in the off season? I mean, I understand we training. I probably would have ran track or something, but you get homesick. And being home in Miami, it was easy for me to go down the street to home, I would come home every weekend anyway with my laundry just so I can get it washed and get a home cooked meal. So having that familiarity, being able to see your folks, being able to have them in every game, every home game rather, it was great. But I also understood with that, it brought a lot of the other things that you had to kind of separate yourself from. And so I had to navigate the friends outside of football and know that I had to separate myself from them so I can continue to play good football and be a good, collegiate student. And so that's what I did too. I made sure that I was strict on myself and saying, okay, I'm home, so I can easily go down the street and have fun in my old neighborhood or be around some of the people that I grew up around. But that might not necessarily be good for me if I'm trying to graduate and be the best that I can be as a football player. So I grew up fast knowing that I had to have one or the other. And so I chose football. I chose to dive in, be stern into my studies, make sure I graduate, And also I wanted to make sure that every Saturday when you turn the TV on, that number 6 was doing something well. And the way I did that was just making sure I had to cut out some of the stuff that was around me that home allowed me to have, you know.
Wow.
Man, I love that. I love that. So during your playing days, you faced a lot of good cornerbacks, basically like linebackers and safeties. During your playing days, who was tough to go one-on-one with for you?
One-on-one should be easy for any receiver. That's not saying no DB could stand a chance. I just feel like one-on-one, you should be able to beat a guy. Like if I had to get against the best, if Deion Sanders was in his prime and I'm in my prime, this is just an analogy. You should be able to, in a one-on-one drill, you should be able to beat that guy. He should not lock you down. If you had 10 out of 9 out of 10, being that prime was the best that ever walked the earth, he's like God of that position. I would say you should be able to win 5 of them against prime. You know what I'm saying? It should be even. But so it wasn't a lot of guys like that when I played. Some great guys, don't get me wrong. I can name some. Richard Sherman was tough. Champ Bailey was tough. Reeves was tough. I got to see Reeves as a pup when he was a rookie. I came back to New York for the first time. My first game in New York, Reeves was a rookie. And I left that game. I think I had a productive day. I remember I had a stutter go on Reeves, and I could have won the game with that. We eventually won the game. But I remember going home telling my best friend, he's a cornerback as well, played high school ball together. And he went to Western Michigan and played a stint with the Giants. He was on the Giants practice squad for 2 years, around the same time I was with the Jets. Bo Rogers, I remember coming home like, bro, you told me to look out for Reeves, and I didn't know he was that good. Like he's a rookie. I was like, man, I work for my money today. You know what I mean? So, but when I had to compare all those guys, Reeves stands out. You know, Reeves stands out. And what I tell folks a lot of when it comes to our game, I should beat you at one-on-one. I should. Like, I know where I'm going. You don't. I should beat you. The thing that gets us covered or get us taken off our route is when you have a great front four. If your defensive front is good and you're good, then you shouldn't have a day because the quarterback doesn't have time to get to you. You know, So that's what I found out a lot about, especially not having the best offensive line play throughout my years in Washington. You can be my son, you know what I mean? Playing corner. If that defensive front going is good, I'm locked down. But you have to give those guys credit who play the position right. And even Newman with Dallas, I love going against him. He was good. I don't think a lot of people give Terrence Newman, his name Terrence, right? I don't think they give Terrence Newman enough credit, man. He was solid, man. I had to see him twice a year, so I used to go on my bag for him. He had me digging because he was fast. He had long arms. You know, he was smart. So, you know, you don't have to be overly aggressive to play that position. As long as you have those intangibles that I just named for that Terrence had, you know, you can give a guy like myself, you know, the business. So I didn't win every match as a receiver. No, you don't win them all. But I like to try to win the most. And Terrence used to make me go on my bag and really have to bring out my best.
Wow.
Love that. Love that.
See, I was gonna go with another question, but since we're talking about the cornerback situation, and let's stay here for a second. Now, look, I know I should ask you about your team that you're working with, but you know I'm gonna go back to the Jets. All right, what's your thoughts on this Jets overall? But how about Sauce Gardner? I mean, we're talking cornerbacks. You know, I'm hearing Reeves names. I'm hearing a lot of comparisons with Sauce. What's your thoughts, Moss?
I think y'all got 2 Pro Bowl caliber corners. Number 4 pretty good too.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner was my man. I was high on him in the draft. I was like, man, if he can fall to us, let us have him. You know what I mean? He's phenomenal. He's young too, so it's just the ceiling is high. You know, I don't see a ceiling or floor on him. Like he's just that talented. And it's guys like that, man. It's guys that just come out in the league and they just raw, man. It just like Sauce remind me, if you had to think of a guy. Now, when it comes to the career thus far, you know, I don't think no one could compare with what Randy did as a receiver his first year, but he reminded me of that kind of talent, just that kind of body, you know what I mean? Like this body type, what he can do at his position. I watched him get beat the other night, and he just recovered so fast, and the ball was incomplete. You know what I mean? So I'm like, look at this guy he lanky. We call what he is lanky. You know what I mean? He's long armed, and he can just run. And so when you have a guy with the body type that he has, and he can run with that, most tall guys, they're not considered that fast. They can get to point A and B pretty quick because they long, but he's fast, quick, all the above, and he's that lanky. So the ceiling is very high for this guy. With that Jets team defensively, if they offense could get on point, whew, man. I mean, like I'm watching this year, I remember me and Mikos and Wayne had a little appearance this summer. I didn't even know this thing existed in New Jersey, the new mall y'all have out there.
Oh,
and
yep.
That was amazing to me because the 4 years I was there, I probably would have been in that mall every week. You know what I mean? If it existed when I was there, but no, it's nice. And we had a little appearance out there, and I remember us talking about both teams, the Commanders and the Jets.
Yeah.
And it's great to see both of them right now playing, competitive football and have a chance to get in the postseason. The Jets, to me, have a quarterback problem, I could say.
Yeah.
Some of us will agree. Yeah.
I say they have two quarterbacks that they're going to have to decide who's going to be the guy. That's a great problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like Wilson. I think White is doing a good job. I think the kid needs another chance, and he should be able to win his job back. White is playing good, so you let the guy who has the hot hand play. But so that's a great problem to have. But it's great to see what Sauce is doing thus far in his career. I think his, the ceiling is high, and his career could be real bright.
Yeah, I think you said it best, right? He with him having that lanky body and that mold to him, you're kind of shocked a little bit when you see that makeup speed. Because I know what that play you were talking about, right? He got burnt, and then it's like you don't expect to see this big lanky dude like that have that recovery time. So that's dope. But like you said, it is nice though. December, we got two teams that we're not expecting to talk about during this time of year. How you doing, Nathan? I'm sorry, I just had to celebrate it.
You're
in December.
I love
it's been rough. It's been rough for both organizations for the last, you name it, years. And so just to be in contentions of, seeing a postseason or having something to play for, their destiny basically in their hands.
Yeah.
The last year. So in both, due to the fact that I have history of both teams, I know a lot of folks see me in Washington like, damn, Tanner just forgot about the Jets. No, trust me. I give more credit to the Jets than anybody because they drafted me. You know what I mean? So, I know my 4 years came and went fast. There's no regrets of how everything, happened because I feel like everything happened for a reason. I mean, if you was a fan back in those days, I wasn't being used to my best ability. Mm-hmm. And so with, when I look back, people ask me all the time, what's one thing I can say about my career as a football player, period. And I was like, I did more with less, and that's kind of was like definitely the case when I was in New York. Didn't get a lot of opportunities, but when I did, I shined, and I made sure that in those 4 years I could be remembered. So I have no regrets, man. I still love the fan base because, like I said before, first and foremost, if you can win them over, then you good. You know what I mean? Yeah, no one can do anything. If the fans rock with you in New York,
look, when Jets fans still like you once you're gone, all right, then you did something right. If you're a receiver and your name is brought up and the Jets are like, who? Then you did nothing. All right.
Hey, then they'll call your name every time.
Yeah. So that's what I love the most about it, man. That one of the things I was always big on, and I learned from my dad, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to leave New York. I didn't want to leave, even though I knew I wasn't getting treated fairly. I didn't want to leave when that opportunity presented itself. They like, hey, my agent like, hey, bro, they're not gonna grant you that contract that they told us they was gonna grant us before the season started. So he was like, they're gonna make you play another year for it. I'm like, well, let's do it. And he was like, no, that's not how this business works because it's not for long in this business. So something could happen drastically to you, and then they say, oh well, he got hurt. We don't need to pay him. So I had to kind of tap into the business side of it and say, okay, so what's next? And it was funny how the whole DC thing happened because that was the team I was projected to go to in the draft. The whole week I talked to Washington fan base, and I talked to the media up there. And the only reason what kept me out of there is because Schottenheimer wanted Rob Gotten. He wanted a taller receiver. So Dan Snyder had me on the chart for number one, their first round pick that year. And him and Schottenheimer bumped heads. And every year Dan tried to trade for me, except the year that I came.
Oh, wow.
So, but to get back to my story, I was always told to finish what I started. So that's why I didn't really want to leave New York, because I wanted to finish, what I started there. And I feel like the bumpy start that I had, my finish was going to be that much greater because it was bumpy out the gates. And I wanted to always be the last, have the last say so of how things ended, because of, you can't never look at a man or judge a man by, how he started. You got to judge him by how he finished.
Yeah. So speaking of, I don't know, some people don't know about this. The Cowboys drafted Mike White into the league first, and apparently it didn't work out with us. But now, Mike, I'm proud of Mike White with the Jets. He's doing a great job with them, and he continues to work hard. He's a great young player, so they got a good one in him. But I got to ask you, speaking of Washington, you spent there like 9 years pretty much, and what was that experience like playing in the NFC East? And we had a couple of your former teammates on. We had Fred Davis on our show, Logan Paulson, Donovan McNabb was on the show, Jason Campbell was on the show. So what was it like playing with these type of players and building those relationships in the NFC East?
Oh, it was a great 10 years, man. I played 10 to be there, four with you guys, 10 there. And I'm still there. Now I cover the team, NBC Sports, and I also work with the team personally. Do a few shows called the Command Center, and I do the podcast there called the Players Club. That's why I'm still there. Those years was like, what it feels like to be like, okay, like you found home. You know what I mean? Like I felt like that was home. Like the experience I had in New York was great. Like I said, I was kind of like, how like when you in that house with your big brothers and your big cousins and you get beat up and you kind of go through a rough patch and then you become that guy and you're like, okay, we initiated him and he was able to make it out. That's what New York was. I got jumped in, you know what I mean? And I got to DC and I knew how to handle media. I knew how to be a professional. Everything that I learned in New York, I took with me and I was able to, implement it into my game, and it made me who I was. And being that I was so stern and so stuck in those ways of being better every year, I was able to win that fan base over. And when it was time to leave, it was hard to. And it was hard to even leave that team, just knowing how much I put into, playing. Didn't get a chance to see what I've been destined to see, and that's a Super Bowl. So it's no coincidence to see I'm still around, because I feel like somebody got to give me a ring. You know what I'm saying? I might not be playing, but somebody got to give me a ring. So,
man, you deserve a ring, man. You deserve a ring.
I'm hoping the Commanders could pull it off soon, man. I mean, I feel right now I'm loving what's going on with just the whole fact that these guys are playing competitive football. They in the hunt. It's great to be in the hunt. But I think more than just being in the hunt, I like what Ron Rivera does as a coach. I like who he is as a person. I think Ron Rivera and Herm Edwards have the same, characteristic, what it is. Like, they're great leaders of men.
Right.
They're motivators. They're people that it's not hard to go out and lay on the line for. And that's why in my 4 years in New York, we was able to go to see 3 playoffs. You know what I mean? 3 out of 4 years. And I was telling folks, I'm like, it's crazy that I spent 4 years there, went to the playoffs 3 times, I got to the second round once. And then in 10 years in Washington, went to the playoffs 3 times, got to the second round once. Wow. That's crazy that you got the same scenario for different years. So, the grass isn't always greener, but I will say that for my career, it was definitely greener in DC, and that's no indictment to New York. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity. But getting back to what you asked me about those players, man, it's great, man. I'm pretty sure if you had to ask those players, anything about me, they'll have the same, respect that I have for them. I was one of those guys, man. I was able to be embraced by everybody. Like, you know, I'm the solver. I'm the problem solver in the locker room. I was the guy that if somebody was in an argument, they come ask Tanner. Tanner, man, hey, tell us, you know, be the mediator. You know what I mean?
I'm the mediator, yeah.
I'm the guy that get along with everybody. It can be a group of guys doing Bible study over here. It can be a group of guys gambling, shooting dice. It can be a group of guys over here playing dominoes. It can be a group of guys over here talking about stocks and bonds. And every circle gonna call on me to ask me a question about and that's not to pat myself on the back, but that's just who I was. I was easy to, you know, come up to and touch. You know what I mean? I'm not a guy sitting there, you know, claiming a side. I'm for everybody. So that's why when it was time for me to play and the things that I went through, because you got to think, you know, we all go through something. When it came to those years later in my career where, you know, you got to be honest with yourself and say, okay, I'm not this kind of player, so I have to take what they give me. And when I did that, I was able to do it with my head high, because even though I might not be the guy who I was once, because we all, you know, for the time catch up, especially with injuries and everything else, I know I still be effective with the role that they give me. You know what I mean? Football is football. You know, I was playing guys. My last 4 years, I was on one leg, and that's not to throw no shade at guys. If I got you in the last 4 years, I was on one leg.
That's with it.
But nah, you know, and that's just real, man. A lot of guys out there nicked up, injured, barely playing. You know, we go through the extreme to go out there and be productive. But sometimes you have to put the team before you. And that's what I've always done. So whatever, regardless of whatever my fate was going to be, I always put the team first. And I can rest assured, whether I was treated wrongly or not, I put the team first. So I'm able to live with that. It wasn't about me. And I'm going to go out with that, my head high, knowing that I didn't sit out there and I wasn't selfish. You know, I was selfless, and this is what you gave me, then I'm cool with it, because I feel like guys like that would always be blessed and always be have something out there for them, because that's just who we are. That's what makes us who we are.
Well said.
And I love all that. Congratulations, what you're doing with the Commanders. I know you got podcasts and shows and what you're doing in the locker room. And also, congratulations on introducing 10 new inductees to the Washington's Greatest. Congratulations, man. Much deserved for you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
I know you're witnessing Terry McLaurin there with the Commanders. For you, what player is must-see TV right now?
Well, Terry, it's hard to say. Terry is not. Terry is one for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna stick with the receivers. We
Yes,
got
sir.
Terry, we got Curtis Samuel, and we got Jahan Dotson, man. Jahan Dotson is, man, this guy's a rookie. You see, he got 5 touchdowns on the season already. He just played well in New Jersey. You know, he was born in New Jersey. So when we went back and played the Giants last week, we was able to put him into the game plan heavy. He ended up, you know, having a game time touchdown. If he didn't get injured this year, there's no telling where his stats would be at. He had a little hamstring early in the season that set him down for a while, and last week was his best game since the previous games that he put on. But man, he's a guy, you know, when you look at Terry, when you had to compare, so Terry and Curtis Samuels are interesting at the position. When I say interesting, you can see Terry, when it comes to ability, it's more of his grit. It's more of his grind. It's more of his, you're not going to dominate me. I'm going to dominate you because I've worked my behind off to be here.
Right.
When you look at Curtis, he's just a phenomenal athlete. You know, put the ball in his hand, might not be the best route runner. He might be faster than half of the league, but you just put the ball in his hand, he makes something out of nothing. In the backfield, out wide, he's an athlete. Jahan Dotson is a receiver.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to curse. I know I probably can.
You
He's
You can curse.
He has everything. If you had to draw the perfect receiver nowadays, you know, you really seldom get the height all the time now with receivers. But if you had to draw the perfect receiver, what you wanted out of him, hands, route running, the knowledge of the game, IQ, you call IQ, skill set, he has it all. And I watch him and I'm like, whew, you just got like you say that every time you run around, you're like, he know how to stem, he know how to use his stems well, he know how to run you down on your toe. I mean, his body control, whatever I left out, he has it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so, and y'all heard, quote me on this. Quote me. Remember this.
Okay.
Terry is gonna be Terry. It ain't too many. Terry deserves all the credit. Jahan Dotson, it's great to be a Terry. I would love being in Terry's shoes to have Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson on my team. Just knowing what Jahan brings as a young guy, just think of that for the future. That's why we got to get a quarterback.
Yes.
You got to get a guy for those three guys because, man, if they doing what they're doing now with the quarterback play that we've had, I hate to see a Tom Brady with them. I hate to see a Herbert with them. I hate to see any quarterback that's on that level right now. I hate to see the guy up in Buffalo with them. Josh Allen. Man, give them anybody on that caliber. They will be the best receiver core in the league.
Wow.
Quote me, hands down.
Oh, okay.
Straight up and down.
Wow.
That's a hot take right there. That's
a hot take.
Hot take. I mean, I literally almost just bought a Dotson jersey while he was pitching.
Man, no kidding. And Ron Rivera's Dawson boy. Yeah, Ron Rivera with Curtis Samuel with the Panthers. That's a good connection too.
Yeah.
If you want to start a rumor or a hot take, there's a guy in Green Bay that Washington should consider.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love Aaron Rodgers, but not this late in his career.
Yeah, I understand.
I feel like he's not gonna give us enough of what we need. Yeah, you get a guy now for 1 or 2 years. Who knows how long he gonna play? I just feel like you can't. That's no substance in that. You know what I'm saying? Like you're looking for something that you can say that, regardless of what he is right now, we have a future with him. You know what I mean? So I want more of a future than just right now. So I'm more of a guy that's about building something than just saying, give me a quick fix. I don't want a patch. A patch ain't sustainable. You can patch anything and say, the Rams did that last year. They patched that team up and say, oh, Super Bowl. Right now they clawing, fighting, scratching. No draft picks coming up in this draft.
Right.
It's going to be hard. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want that. I want something that's with a little more substance and a little more sustainability. And I'm not sure if that quarterback out there, but hopefully we land one in the near future. And you never know, we might have one on our team. We have a guy who's our third guy right now who showed us some great signs in the preseason. Not sure what he's going to bring to the table, but he's very capable. So, but I just know you still got to go out there if things don't pan out. Not sure what they're going to do with Carson. I kind of know, but I don't know. You got to go out there and look for somebody in this draft or whoever's going to be available.
Yeah, it's funny because it seems like the Redskins and the Jets are both very similar in that sense, right? Where you're noticing you got a young receiving core that's going to do damage. You're seeing a lot of stuff on defense increase, but there's question marks in that quarterback position that it's like that same daunting, who's it going to be? What's it going to be? Are we going to end up wasting all this young talent? But are you familiar with the FCF?
SCF?
Fan Control Football League?
No.
All
I heard about it.
Right. So it's a league where the fans get to use the app. They call the plays, what you're doing on offense, what you're doing on defense. I'm actually one of the owners for the Knights of Degen team for the league. So, I'm like, how do I put my best pitch in front of Tana to either A, get him out there to be the guy that coaches up my wide receivers, or B, how many of my kids do I have to sell to possibly get, a Santana Moss on a third down play?
Zeros will solve it. Zeros and commas will solve it.
That's a no.
Money talk, BS walks. You hear me?
All right. Well, we'll work on getting Santana Moss to be our wide receiver coach for the season. We'll start there. I don't think I can get the zeros for the gameplay. All right.
Gotcha. Respect.
Go ahead, Ethan. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Let me ask you. I don't know who asked about the other question, but I want to ask you about who gave you the nickname Cowboy Killer, and what gave you success against our Dallas Cowboys, I should say.
That's a great question, man. Honestly, I came home from that game. That was only my second game as a Redskin. And I came home and it was just stamped, bro. I walked the streets and that was all I heard, Cowboy Killer. And I wouldn't even know what they were talking to. And the guys approached me like, Cowboy Killer, son. And it was crazy because the second game that year, folks don't realize I did something similar. I bombed Aaron Glenn, which Aaron Glenn and me both played for the Jets at the same time too. Right. I'm not sure y'all know that, but I bombed Aaron Glenn and I fell on the one and I rolled into the end zone. I scored, and Joe Gibbs was the fucking ref. See, I'm gonna use these cuss words because they done stole so many fucking touchdowns in my career from me, bro. These fucking refs and haven't got it right. It's cool, man, but because I've gotten about 4 of them out there that I should be well off in my 70s, and they telling me I got 66 something touchdowns, receiving touchdowns rather. But anyway, Coach Gibbs, I came on the sideline. I say, Coach, I rolled into the end zone. They never touched me. That's a touchdown. Let's review it. He like, no, hurry up. He hurried up and they plowed in for a touchdown. And I was on the fucking sideline, pissed off like this. Like, you don't get those, man. Like, I'm from an era in football and at receiver, and being that you're from Pembroke Pines, you know, Carol City, we didn't throw the ball. So you catch the pass and you score a touchdown, that shit gotta count. You know what I mean? It ain't no, it ain't count. We're gonna hurry up. Nah, we're gonna sit there. It's either not gonna count or it's gonna count. So we'll review mine next time. But honestly, man, it just came about, man. Some folks gave it to me. And to tell you the truth, one of the things that made me have some of the moments, a lot of folks don't know this. I have a lot of relatives that stay in Dallas. So they was at the games. So when I was playing, I was really putting on for my family. You know, that it's always great to have to be felt to go to a stadium and feel and that stadium feel like home to you. You know, my uncles that I literally grew up in a house with, man, that they was right there watching and cheering me on. So to have that kind of support, it was like God just say, you know what, I gotta make you show out for them, man, because all those hard days where you used to run up and down that house and they used to cuss you out for running up and down the house. Now it's time for you to pay them back to show them what you was doing, what you was getting ready for. So that's what it was about, man. My mom, you know, brothers and sisters was right there in Dallas, and you know, I was able to go out there and put on a show for them.
Well, maybe you can come to Dallas as a package with Odell Beckham.
Oh man, first of all, I don't want to see Odell. I love Odell. I don't want to see Odell in the NFC East no more. Go on, Odell, please go somewhere else. I do not want that problem. I do not want them problems, man.
I just want to ask real quick, since we're talking about receivers, do you think receivers these days have it easier than the way you guys had it coming into the game?
Bro, they don't even get pressed anymore. What you think? They don't get pressed. It's a passing game. You can't get hit across the middle, man. I had Rodney Harrison tattooing my damn face every time. You name it. So, you know, you asking me, do they have it easier? Hell yeah, they got it easier. I mean, the attempts are more, you know, the play as a whole is more. I've been held more than anybody in the game, hands down. I'm exaggerating, but now they blow wind at you. It's a pass interference. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, or just a touch, touch them. Just touch them.
Being that I'm barely 5'10", guys felt that the only way I can slow this guy down is put hands on him. And half of the time they wasn't going to do it at the line of scrimmage. They would do it throughout my route. So I've catfighted with so many guys and I wouldn't get a call. And I remember telling refs like, bro, you don't see us fucking tangling down. We basically playing high five down the field. That's not a pass interference. And he was like, the ball wasn't coming to you. And now I watch the game. A guy will be nowhere in the
all
picture.
The way over there.
Flag is thrown because somebody got hit way over here or touched with it. So I'm just like, bro, I don't know what kind of football we was playing when I was playing, but it wasn't fair. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I love to see that, because I think it takes a little out the game. You know what I mean? Like, you should be able to be touched more than 5 yards, because it happened to me all my career. You should be able to be jammed aggressively. It happened to me all my career. Because we do it when we have to. I don't like the whole rule when it's a slip screen and the damn receiver is blocking and they say, oh, you can't block before he catches the ball. It's a slip screen. He's not fucking, he's still on the line of scrimmage or a yard behind the line of scrimmage. Why the fuck can he not block? You know what I mean? Like, use my French, man. But that's the type of shit in the game that bothers me because I recall 05, I run a lot of slip screens. I scored on a lot of slip screens. 06, I have 10 catches that they counted as runs because it was a slip screen. So, that's the stuff that they would do to you to try to minimize or stop you from shining. And then now guys are doing it on a regular and those counted as passes. So you asked the question, so I had to give it.
I did. I struck a nerve on. That's right.
Hey, you're being real. You're telling us how it is. That's what we love.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I just figure it's got to be so hard, especially trying to teach it to receivers now, right? Same thing on defense. Like, so hard to teach a pass rusher on run to the quarterback, lay down the pillow, and hug him. I look at how the game was played in your day, and and we could say the same thing for a lot of sports now, right? Same thing with NBA, right? You're not going to see the days of the Pistons games and stuff like that, right? So it's just. I always find it hard, not only just from the player standpoint, but from the coaching side too. Like, how do you adjust so much to teach a receiver on, hey, here's what you got to do. Hey, you got all the permission in the world to go wherever, just get that guy to touch you and they're going to call it, right? So it's kind of like just such a different game these days.
It's, you got to look at it like this too. It's the evolution of the game. I mean, the game now is a fantasy game. They're more concerned with the fantasy owners to
and
be
the betting. Yep.
The bets, because that drives everything. Then the TV deals, then you name all the other deals. They want to see scoring. They want to see high-powered offensive play. They want to see stars be stars. So in my era, it was just about being gritty and playing football. You know what I mean? If you're a star, be a star, but you got to go through a lot to be one. You know what I'm saying? So you was able to be one, tip your hat off to you, man. Job well done. Now, you're going to be a star. If you're a star, we're going to make sure you're a star. We're going to give you the calls. We're going to make sure no one can touch you. We're going to make sure the passes, especially as a receiver, we're going to make sure you got a high volume of passes, thrown to you. And now it's up to you, be a star or bust. And that's how I look at it.
Should you have time to take fan questions real quick?
Yeah, I got a little time. I got to get my kids in a minute. So let's go ahead and get a couple of them in.
All right, so now we're gonna do like a fan Q&A segment on our Spreaker app that we have on my phone. So a couple of fans tuned in here, a lot of fans actually, but a couple of questions here. One question from one of our fans. They want to know what was your go-to snack before a game?
Snack? Well, pregame meal, I would eat the same thing for a pregame meal. So I can't consider that as a snack. I would eat some pasta. No meat sauce, it'd be just regular sauce, and chicken breast. That was like high-powered protein meal for me. I feel like I used to go out there and be very productive on that. Now, the one time I did eat McDonald's with Porter's, I went out there and had 3 touchdowns against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had McDonald's and Hennessy that game, so I guess that could have been something that I could have, but I used to. I had the Hennessy all the time from that point on, but I didn't. But that was mostly what I've always ate. I had pasta and chicken breast. That was like my go-to meal.
So you heard it here, Nathan. Yeah, McDonald's and a Hennessy. You came 3 touchdowns, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, when I go play soccer next, I'm gonna do that and then see if I score 3 goals.
But another question here. They want to know, if you didn't play football, what would you be doing now? What would you be doing now? They want to know.
If I never played football, I probably would have ran track. I consider myself, my goals was to make it to the Olympics in track and make it to the NFL in football. I made it to the Olympic trials. So to have that kind of recognition that I can be a lone jumper and maybe one day make it to the Olympics in it, it was gratifying. I felt like, okay, if I'd have put more into this, because that year I made it. That year I made it to nationals and all that stuff. I didn't even compete that year. I just went to the track meet because I had qualified the previous year. and I PR'd and had a meet record, and we won the Big East championship. So it was like, damn, I didn't practice this year, and I went out here and did all that. They tested me the whole game, and the whole meet, and I didn't have Hen that time. I had Mad Dog that day, so
Oh, we had that
probably what
2020.
that
Okay.
listen, one of the things I found out about myself, I can compete, intoxicated.
And I'm telling you, it sounds like the South Florida way, right?
Yeah.
Either that MD 2020, you had that St. Ives, right?
It wasn't. I will say I didn't have it. I didn't drink it that day. It was the night before. I was celebrating the birthday of my son. My son was just born like May 1st, that Monday, and I flew up to New Jersey Friday. I missed, I called the coach like, hey, I compete. I know I'm not competing this year, but I'd rather come up there, be sitting in the hospital. And got up there, and everybody was wanting to celebrate with cigars and drinks. And the next morning, I was under the bed somewhere, toe up. I get to the stadium, and we won the 4x1, and I won the triple jump and long jump, PR'd and meet records. And they looking at me like, bro, you gotta go get tested. There's no way in hell you just did all this. I remember telling the tester, I was like, hey man, all you gonna get out of me is Mad Dog. I ain't got nothing else.
All right, we'll take one more fan question here for you. They want to know. They want to know what are your thoughts on CeeDee Lamb?
I like him. He's smooth. He got big shoes to fill. When it comes to that 88, I think he'll be able to fill them though. It's hard to see that they trying to say that they still need somebody. I think Gallup, he's a great guy. I think you got to give him time. He coming off a knee injury. That number 85 y'all have, I think he's the perfect.
Noah Brown, yeah.
He's great to be that third guy. So y'all got a good receiving core, but CeeDee Lamb is gonna be that guy. He's real smooth and savvy.
All right,
and Washington's coming back too. Washington's coming back.
Forgot about him, and he's fast. I liked him in Pittsburgh. He was great in Pittsburgh. So
facts.
So all right. So before we close this out, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. Now he's coaching at Grambling State University. You know him. We'll send you the foundation so you can check it out.
Okay. Much love, man.
So where can our fans find you on social media? Where can they follow you?
Well, Instagram is my thing. 8 to the 9. You spell out 8, TODA, spell out 9. On Instagram. I believe it's the same thing on Facebook, but I don't do Twitter. I think the last tweet I posted was I'm chilling, and it was 8 to the 9 on that too. And I haven't responded since then. That was 2011. So when you're looking for me throughout the week, I do a few shows with the Washington Commanders called the Command Center. It's on YouTube. I watch the Commanders YouTube channel, and then I'm also on pre and post game shows with NBC Sports up there in Washington. And everything Washington football, man. You look, you'll see me. I'm hard to not find when it comes to what we're doing up there.
And Italy Jet and Jigga Man Proto, you want to promote your guys' stuff, and what do you guys have coming up next? There you go.
Right, there you go. So I'm in Elite Jet from everything at NYJ. We do all kinds of Jets content. We have people on once a week, and we're always updating everything with New York Jets. Definitely love Santana come on for sure as well. But I'm doing 12, 11 shows a week. And so Italy Jet, everything NYJ. And
then you?
Nice. Yeah, you can just follow me at Gigaporto. Like you said, director of content for KOD Media. I've got my Knicks Morning Brew. We've got our Yankees Brew. We've got, all kinds of content out there. But just want to thank you again, Nathan, for the opportunity. It's one of those bucket list moments. So, Tana, I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to you, bro.
It was a blast. It was a blast, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, all of you guys.
Appreciate it.
Right.